I had already been awake for an hour when the knock came at my door. I was lying in my bunk, staring intently at a yellow ribbon that I had held gently between my fingers. In all honesty, it had been the best part of 2 years since I last enjoyed a full night's sleep. 2 years since I had managed to close my eyes and slumber peacefully. Of course, the memories were always there. The lingering sense of guilt never quite went away. But it was only at night, alone in the darkness, that it truly revealed itself. No longer trailing like a shadow, but instead looming overhead as though taking on some physical form of its own. Even when sleep did finally take me, there was no escape. I would wake, often several times each night, clammy and gasping in my bunk. This particular morning was no different. Jolting from sleep in the early hours, I scrambled for the ribbon and clutched it close. Taking deep, soothing breaths, I felt the material between my fingers. It was a scrap of yellow velvet, worn so regularly that it had begun to fray slightly at one end. I pictured the way it used to flutter in Amelia's hair, the way that Kate had always tied it so lovingly in a perfect little bow. Slowly the panic faded, and, as it always did, a numbness took its place, a sense of hopelessness that, if I let it, felt as though it could very well swallow me whole. Because it was my fault that I couldn't sleep. My fault that all I had left of Amelia was a scrap of yellow ribbon. My fault that everything had gone wrong. It was around 7:45 when the knock came at my door, sharp and urgent. "Birch! Captain's briefing. 15 minutes." Setting the ribbon down, I frowned. Captain McCrory was a man insistent upon punctuality. In my time on board the Endeavour, just shy of 5 years, his daily officers' briefing had never once taken place other than at 9 o'clock. Even during my year away, I'd often looked at the clock and known that somewhere in the Atlantic, the men were gathering for their morning ritual. Before I could call out a response, though, the speaker moved along, apparently interested neither in receiving a reply nor in giving an explanation. Casting back the covers, I sat up on my bunk and was greeted by a searing flash of pain. I had managed during the night to roll onto my right-hand side, and as I hauled myself from the mattress, the old wound in my shoulder throbbed. Gritting my teeth, I reached for the scar and brushed it with my fingertips. Somewhere in my memory, I heard the crack of rifles and the frantic cries of men scrambling for cover. I felt a sudden agony, burning white-hot in my shoulder as a German bullet found its mark. Blood staining my uniform, I remembered tumbling to the ground before an American soldier seized me under the arms and dragged me roughly to safety. Despite my best efforts, I didn't suppose I would ever forget that day. Just like the scar, it seemed I would forever carry it with me. Screwing my eyes shut, I waited for the pain to subside. Then I flicked a switch on the wall, casting the room in a dull electric light, and dressed hurriedly in my officer's uniform. The Endeavour's first and second-class accommodation might very well be considered the peak of luxury, but the officers' quarters were significantly less comfortable, and in the depths of winter, you felt it. We were situated halfway down the ship, barely above sea level, but with just enough decks between us and the engines that we failed to benefit from any of their residual warmth. What little heat there was, the cabin itself did nothing to retain. The carpet was rough and threadbare, the walls exposed metal. Shivering, I donned a crisp white shirt with a black tie, long woolen coat and peaked cap. Last of all, I folded the yellow ribbon carefully and tucked it into the pocket of my coat.